Manifestation has got nothing to do with you specifically being the master of your reality, as many New Age spiritualists would have you believe. Because the true ability to manifest the good life in which we all want deep down in our hearts is based upon your ability to align yourself to the objective will and truth of God. For example, in Galatians chapter 6, verse 7 to 8, we are given the law of cause and effect by God. Be not deceived, God is not to be mocked, for whatever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. But it is not a simple description of a scientific, amoral nature of reality. It is an inherent morality. There is an inherent morality within this law of cause and effect within our human existence. Which is this, for it also says in Galatians, for he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption. For he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting. This is what we could call the duality of flesh and the spirit, and depending on what you sow, you either reap life or death. You will reap sin or spirit. You will reap corruption or mercy into your life. Love or corruption, mercy, compassion. It is very much the foundation, I believe, of where spiritual warfare really resides, within the duality of the flesh and the spirit. Within the duality of the flesh and the spirit, because it is also, I believe, where your free will exists to choose one or the other, either the flesh, to sow forth the flesh, or to sow forth the spirit. So let's take the example of an individual who is pulled down by, let's say, the spiritual possession of procrastination, because procrastination is a very good example of someone who is battling through a spiritual warfare with themselves, their past, and their future self. Most of the time, when someone procrastinates, they are in some way sowing always from the flesh and not from the spirit. It seems to be, from what I can see. They are choosing to sow through the flesh with lothful behaviours of the flesh to avoid the responsibilities of the spirit. They put off what is necessary, and that which requires hard work, as hard work requires righteousness, which can only be sown from the Spirit. You can only sow righteousness from the Spirit. From my experience of working a lot with my clients within my anti-procrastination program, most people within the program, with regards to procrastination, are always committing to putting things off and instead choosing to entertain themselves with the material consumption of things of the fleshly nature. So things like social media addiction might be in there, video game addiction, eating disorders, eating addiction, or something of this nature, porn addiction, even, bad habits of the flesh, etc., that just keep coming up here and there that you have to try and break through. And this, of course, simply leads to corruption, as it says. Because when we only sow from the flesh, we are at the same time corrupting our discernment, which is our ability to integrate with the Spirit. And oftentimes the Spirit is that which dreams of our future potential self, whereby we embody virtues of righteousness, to do good deeds and to live up to our ambitions and accomplishments. People who suffer from procrastination in its different forms of suffering, or always, of course, and we can see this in relation to the spirit, always low in spirit as well. It seems to be, the low in self-esteem, the low in self-confidence, low in spirit, and spiritedness itself. This is simply an expression of how the duality of what I was saying with regards to the spirit and the flesh is at the forefront of spiritual warfare. This requires us, of course, what is necessary here is to drag ourselves out from the sins of the flesh into our new potential, in which the Holy Spirit will grant us through self-awareness and integration with the Spirit. And usually when we are stuck in this trap, it becomes a literal trap, a metaphorical trap, a physical, in every way of description. because we become more unconscious of our behaviors, which make it even more difficult for us to break free from this, because we lack self-awareness and we lack the ability to discern, to actually make decisions for ourselves, which is what the discernment grants us to be able to do, to actually change our decisions, to make choices, instead of committing to the same enslavement of a certain particular choice. So how do we spiritually break ourselves from the possession of procrastination? Because usually I talk about procrastination in different ways. When I'm working with people on it, it's talking about psychological, we're talking about the mental. There's mental, physical, and spiritual. No one ever really talks about the spiritual, but I believe that you really need to try and get a grasp of the spiritual until you can really make any physical changes, because where are you going to put your faith in? What are you going to put your faith in it? How are you going to put your faith into yourself in relation to God to actually break free from these things? We have to do as, of course, God commands us, which is the only way we can actually break free from these things, is to sow from the Spirit. In Hosea 10-12 it says perfectly, this is a perfect way of looking at this if you're someone who's dealing with procrastination. Sow in yourselves in righteousness, reap in mercy. Break up your fallow ground, for it is time to seek the Lord till he come and rain righteousness unto you. So to me, this is saying, do deeds and actions with integrity at its heart. Always be integral with what you do. By doing so, you will reap mercy, compassion, and love into your life given to you by God, because you're being righteous, because you're being that of the Spirit. So God will reward you with these things. And the only way we can do this is by making inventory for ourselves of what is fallow. What is dormant in our life that requires cultivation? What are things that we are slacking on every single day that needs to be worked on? If we are sowing from the Spirit, we will have the integrity to confront those things head on, and we will reap mercy, peace, and love into our lives in many different ways, because we will be doing that which is required of us to do. Cowardice, we can then see, in relation to righteousness, is the opposite of righteousness. And if we fall into cowardice, we will end up sowing from the flesh again, and we will get trapped within material stagnation and procrastination, which comes from it. So if you find this interesting, guys, in relation to the spiritual understanding of procrastination, there are a lot of things that you can glean from this that are very important, because I do believe, you do need to, in some sense, develop a spiritual sense of faith, and you need to develop your spiritual approach in relation to yourself, to breaking out of these things in which we know are like representations or emanations of cowardice and things of this nature, for us to break ourselves out of these things so that we can move on from them. So when I'm working with people, I usually go into not so much the spiritual aspect of procrastination, but I then go into the pragmatic aspect with psychology, application of psychology, philosophy, to raise the spirit, because the spirit needs to be risen up from within. That's what needs to happen with this kind of thing. Procrastination is destroyed when the spirit can be risen from within. And I do that with regards to self-esteem, building people's self-esteem, building their self-confidence, reframing the way, or helping the individual reframe the way in which they see themselves, is also a necessity. That also needs to be accomplished. So even if you are interested in doing something of this nature with me, or if you want to jump on a free one-on-one discovery call to understand kind of what I do with people when it comes down to procrastination, because it's a broad stroke term, there's so many things that fit underneath this banner. You can book in a free one-on-one call with me, and we can see if we can do work together to break you out of this spiritual warfare that you're in with regards to procrastination, and allow your spirit to rise up and develop the courage that you need to actually go forth in your life and do the things that you truly want to do. So if you enjoyed this video, guys, make sure to give it a like, share it around with the people that you know and that you love, and who you believe will benefit from this video, and I will speak to you in the next one. Thanks for watching.